With the economy improving, Republicans have started attacking President Obama about rising gas prices. Some forecasts show gas prices hitting $5 a gallon this summer, and the right wants you to believe that these high prices have something to do with President Obama's rejection of the Keystone Pipeline, or maybe his refusal to expand drilling in Alaska, or just his downright hatred of America, of course. They want you to believe that the United States has a shortage of oil, and that if the president were just to drill, baby, drill, then gas prices would plummet. But it's not true. Not even close to true. The United States is not short on oil. We're awash in oil products. In fact, we have so much oil products that we're trying to get rid of that much of it by shipping it overseas. As Bloomberg reported yesterday, for the first time since 1949, that's 62 years ago, the United States is now a net exporter of oil products. That means we shipped more oil products out to places like South America, Europe, and Asia than we imported from around the world. In fact, every single day in 2011, oil corporations shipped about 460,000 more barrels of oil out of the country than we imported into the country that day. So if gas prices are rising because supplies in the U.S. have dropped, why are we getting rid of so much gasoline by exporting it? Well, frankly, it's because the president can't legally tell a multi-billion-dollar transnational oil corporation where to sell their oil. And these corporations don't give a damn about gas supplies in the United States because they're getting a way better deal taking their oil products and selling them elsewhere. And that's exactly what they're doing. And that's why they wanted the Keystone Pipeline. It wasn't to replenish America's supply of oil. It was to replenish the supply of oil that they want to export. Anyone else find it curious that they wanted the Keystone Pipeline to be extended all the way down to the Gulf of Mexico? It's because that's a major export hub. It had nothing to do with transporting oil to retailers across America. They already have that, going to St. Louis and Wood River. It had everything to do with getting it into the shipping lanes as easily and quickly as possible. The president has actually done a pretty decent job of reducing our dependence on oil from the Middle East, reducing it more and more each year he's been in office, which is a far better track record than President Bush had. But despite these reductions, gasoline prices are going up because the oil companies are taking more and more of our refined gasoline, putting it in giant tankers and saying, sayonara. So if you really want someone to blame for rising gas prices, blame the Koch brothers and executives at ExxonMobil and Shell. And blame Wall Street, which is again throwing itself full bore into oil speculation, spending hundreds of billions of dollars betting on futures and creating artificial demand, further jacking up the price of gasoline, just like they did in 2008. That's the real story behind rising gas prices in America. But there's something else going on here that we need to address, and that's this. The United States is quickly becoming the world's dirt pit. We're the nation where the dirty work of refining crude oil and turning it into gasoline and jet fuel is done. Work that inflicts tremendous damage on the environment and the health of our population. It's the kind of work you expect to see in the slums of developing nations, where there aren't regulations or strong governments looking out for their people. It's not what you would expect to see in the United States. But thanks to 30 years of coddling oil corporations, giving them subsidies and tax breaks, and not seriously cracking down on their smokestack emissions, they found a real cozy place in the world to do their dirty work, right in our backyards, down south Texas, Louisiana, the Cancer Alley. After all, they don't have to pay for any of their own externalities, like the increased cases of asthma and cancer that their pollution causes. Those costs are carried by we, the taxpayers, through Medicare and Medicaid, or out of our own pockets when we ourselves or family members get sick. They don't have to pay for the damage they're doing to the environment, pumping millions and millions of tons of carbon and other pollutants into the skies every day. We have to pay for that damage, and the damage when freak climate change-induced weather, like massive tornadoes, tear through our country, like the one yesterday in Harrisburg, Illinois. And as Republicans in Congress and in state governments across America launch an all-out assault on the EPA with the help of Koch brother-funded right-wing think tanks like the American Legislative Exchange Council and the Cato Institute, the oil barons are getting more and more preferential treatment in the United States. All the while, gas prices continue to climb, Americans get sicker and sicker, and ecosystems are ruined for future generations. So let's take the politics out of this debate. Republicans can point their finger at the president all they want. But what they're ignoring is the bigger picture. That we are now still relying on the 19th century energy strategy of fossil fuels, while the rest of the world is moving on to the 21st century strategy of renewable energies. And we're stuck because we've let oil barons buy our elected lawmakers and sabotage any efforts to end our addiction to dirty fossil fuels. These people are hell-bent on sucking out the last $1 trillion of oil from the ground, embedded in rocks, fracking it out of deep underground, deep underwater. No matter what they do, no matter what kind of damage it does to our nation, they want it. Price of oil is going up today because of what they're doing. And in the future, as oil supplies dwindle and our government can no longer afford to subsidize the oil corporations, then $5 a gallon for gas will start to look like a bargain. And if we don't have a comprehensive alternative energy plan in place by then you can kiss the American middle class goodbye for a long, long time. You know, it was 1979 when Jimmy Carter gave a speech in which he said that America would never again import more oil than we did in 1978. And then he added to that by the year 2000, 20% of the electricity in the United States would be produced by solar power, by a national solar bank. And had Ronald Reagan not blown up the legislation that Jimmy Carter put into place, we would have hit those goals long before the year 2000. But Reagan came in with money from big oil and big coal and took the solar panels off the roof, and that was the end of that. We need to get back to a rational energy policy.